I think Bitcoin is unique, and it's really the only opportunity like this we're likely to have, at least in this, important window of time. And, people need to decide if they're going to use it to
Yeah.
fight for those things, or if they're going to acquiesce to the system that's being set up and is going to be pushed on people, most likely through regulation and executive orders. And it's very likely that in the next 2 years, whoever wins in November is going to be president during an unprecedented US government debt crisis. And this is, if you already see it in Trump's policy, if he's in office, this is the system he's going to propose as the solution. And when there is a crisis and the solution is proposed, a lot of people, because it's a crisis and are demanding a rapid resolution to that crisis, they don't think about what's best in the long term necessarily. They're just looking for something to solve the immediate crisis. The reason we're voting for it is to ensure that Bitcoin will be used to propagate financial freedom globally. So, if you're of the opinion that you want Bitcoin to be, hyper Bitcoinization to come at all costs, even if that means it not being a tool for financial freedom anymore, or it being used by intelligence agencies to surveil people, or by Wall Street to, do their thing, then maybe it's fine. But if you're of the idea that, I want Bitcoin to be empowered to end irresponsible fiscal policy at the national level, and want it to ensure financial freedom for everybody, then I don't think Trump's policies necessarily spell that out, unfortunately.
Webb emphasizes that if Bitcoin is to be considered sound money, it should be transactable between people rather than simply being held as a store of value. She advocates for the development of robust privacy tools within the Bitcoin network to counter the increasing threat of surveillance. The concern is that the retail-facing part of this integrated system would rely on stablecoins, which are likely to be used for everyday transactions, while Bitcoin would be relegated to a mere asset that people hold but do not use for transactions. A significant part of Webb's critique is aimed at the growing alignment between the Bitcoin space and the political establishment. She warns that many in the Bitcoin community, eager for validation after years of being marginalized by the establishment, may be too quick to embrace this new system without considering its long-term implications. This alignment, she suggests, could lead to a system that ultimately does not serve the best interests of financial freedom and privacy. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space, and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
Yeah, well, I think the system they're setting up, the goal is to have the US dollar, Bitcoin, and stablecoins all be part of the same ecosystem. And you see, prominent Bitcoin banks, as it were, like Zappo, marketing that they're the bridge between those three things, because the goal is to have those three things, all be part of the same system, as it was essentially outlined by Trump's speech. As it relates to Bitcoin, I think that is not the answer. I think, if Bitcoin is the sound money, it should be what is transactable between people, and that robust privacy tools need to be built upon it. Because if the issue is surveillability, I think that needs to be tackled there. And I think, based on how this whole system's been described, the retail facing part of it would be the stable coins, and that people would just be holding but never transacting with their Bitcoin. But, there has to be consensus for that. And it seems like the establishment consensus, and there's a lot of people, in the Bitcoin space that are just, very caught up in the electoral politics and the emotions of it, and feeling validated for what, the industry they've been in for several years that's obviously not been favored by the establishment. Some people are maybe thinking, since the establishment is favoring this, let's cheer it on. But is it really the best system for everybody? And is it the best for financial freedom, and all of that? So I would urge people to consider, what is it that you want Bitcoin to be used for? Not just, well, again, there's some people that are hyper Bitcoinization at all costs. Doesn't matter if we totally abandon the original ethos behind Bitcoin and getting there. And I think there definitely are a significant amount of those people, but I don't agree with that. I think the ethos is very important. I think Bitcoin is unique, and it's really the only opportunity like this we're likely to have, at least in this important window of time. And, people need to decide if they're going to use it to
Yeah.
fight for those things, or if they're going to acquiesce to this system that's being set up and is going to be pushed on people, most likely through regulation and executive orders. And it's very likely that in the next 2 years, whoever wins in November is going to be president during an unprecedented U.S. government debt crisis. And this is, if you already see it in Trump's policy, if he's in office, this is the system he's going to propose as the solution. And when there is a crisis and the solution is proposed, a lot of people, because it's a crisis and are demanding a rapid resolution to that crisis, they don't think about what's best in the long term necessarily. They're just looking for something to solve the immediate crisis. And so I think this is sort of hinting at what we're going to see. But again, I would urge people to go back to what Trump did when he was in office during the COVID crisis and the fiscal policy that his Treasury Department presided over, which was very bad and very criminal. For people that aren't familiar, I would encourage them to look up the work of John Titus about the going direct reset, where essentially before there was a financial crisis related to COVID in late 2019, BlackRock created this plan that pitched to the central bankers at the Jackson Hole meeting in 2019 about going direct. And basically the idea was, during the next crisis, let's QE again, but instead of giving the QE money to public entities, let's give it straight to the private banks. That's essentially what happened. And one of the people that received those funds, those emergency funds that were meant for Main Street, was BlackRock, and they used it to buy shares in their own ETFs instead of bailing out the people whose businesses were forced to close as part of government policy. And so really, this is one of the key reasons why you saw an unprecedented wealth transfer happen during COVID. And this plan wasn't implemented as soon as COVID started. They actually started when the repo market started to go haywire at the end of 2019 and used COVID as the excuse to ramp it up. So, Larry Fink's involvement in that, and also his involvement in the 2008 financial crisis, for example, these same people at Wall Street, when there's a crisis, affect these massive wealth transfers that take, money from regular Americans to the very top, who are now richer than ever, especially after COVID. And, regardless of who wins in November, when this debt crisis comes home to roost, that's what's going to happen. And I think they're going to use that as well to saddle the American people with surveillable, programmable money. Maybe it's more likely if Kamala gets in, it'll be a CBDC. But it seems quite clear that if Trump gets in, it will be a private bank digital currency, or some of these private bank issued stablecoins or tokenized deposits and things like that, which again are just as surveillable and programmable as stablecoins. And maybe it will be framed as a win, but a win for what, really? Again, I'm not super optimistic about that. But again, my view is that the government is essentially run by, organized crime and intelligence agencies that have fused what they do, and it's been very profitable for them. And they're going to continue to do that and pull the strings of both parties. And when there's a crisis, this is invariably what happens. And there's plenty of historical precedents to look at as far as, the economics of it are concerned.
One of the most concerning aspects of this new system, according to Webb, is the programmability and surveillability of digital currencies. While Trump has openly opposed CBDCs, Webb points out that stablecoins, particularly those issued by large institutions like Circle, are just as programmable and surveillable as CBDCs. This programmability allows for the tracking and control of every transaction, undermining the very principles of financial freedom that many Bitcoin proponents hold dear. Webb also raises concerns about the alliances between stablecoin issuers and government agencies like the FBI and the Secret Service. These alliances, she argues, blur the line between private sector initiatives and government control, creating a public-private partnership that could be used to further state surveillance and control. In this context, stablecoins could become tools of financial repression, used to enforce government policies and stifle dissent.
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty obvious that it's the conservative camp really only, aside from, RFK being an independent, that are interested in really appealing to the Bitcoin base at all as it relates to electoral politics. And they've done so Very successfully, but I think again, what you're seeing here is sort of what we saw over the course of the past year was sort of Wall Street warming up to Bitcoin. And what we're seeing, it's just another extension of the establishment cozying up to Bitcoin, I guess. So I guess you could frame, Larry Fink's about face and all of that as sort of the private sector establishment turnaround, and this is sort of the public sector establishment turnaround. But as far as it relates to financial freedom, I don't think the policies expressed by Trump, or at least what Trump expressed or hinted at in his speech, because he didn't, as far as RFKs went, he was more deliberate about what his policies specific. Yeah. And Trump was a little more vague, but based on what, Trump said, talking about sort of yoking Bitcoin and the dollar together and using that to expand the dollar's power and hegemony globally, and then also bringing in stable coins, which of course would be in this case dollar denominated stable coins into the play. We have to consider what that means if the reason we're voting for it is to ensure that Bitcoin will be used to propagate financial freedom globally. So, if you're of the opinion that you want Bitcoin to be, hyper Bitcoinization to come at all costs, even if that means it not being a tool for financial freedom anymore, or it being used by intelligence agencies to surveil people, or by Wall Street to, do their thing, then maybe it's fine. But if you're of the idea that, I want Bitcoin to be empowered to end irresponsible fiscal policy at the national level and want it to ensure financial freedom for everybody, then I don't think Trump's policies necessarily spell that out, unfortunately. And part of that has to do with the whole stablecoin play. So Trump has been very openly against central bank digital currencies, but the problem with stablecoins, particularly the big ones, is that they're just as programmable and surveillable as CBDCs could be. So most people are against CBDCs because of the programmability aspect and and the surveillability aspect, being able to trace and surveil every dollar you spend. And stablecoins can offer that as well, because most of them are built. They're like ERC20 tokens right at the end of the day, and have that programmability functionality. And some stablecoin issuers that are prominent, like Circle, openly talk about the programmability aspects of their stablecoin. And they're in a very deep alliance with BlackRock, Circle particularly, and Tether itself has made an alliance with the FBI and the Secret Service, and other aspects of the U.S. government to freeze wallets at the behest of the U.S. government, thereby making Tether sort of a soft extension of U.S. foreign and fiscal policy abroad as it relates to sanctions and other things. Some of which the U.S., of course, in the past has used to facilitate regime change operations and other things, not necessarily stop terrorism, as they are inclined to say. So it's important to keep that in mind. And, if you're allowing intelligence agencies, what the FBI technically is, to be onboarded onto your stablecoin, it's really not a private sector thing. It's a public-private partnership. And public-private partnership is the model that the U.S. and really most of the world essentially favors. And so, I think these stable coins offer that same kind of threat to financial freedom, or, easily could, were things to develop that way. And so, if programmability and surveillability is the threat to financial freedom, then we should not support that, right? And instead look for ways to build robust privacy tools on the base layer of Bitcoin, maybe, and try and make it something that's transactable, as opposed to this idea of having it be a storage or a technology for asset storage, as Larry Fink says, and something no one spends and people just hold, which is, what Larry Fink wants, and also, the way Bitcoin would be utilized in the framework that was laid out in the Trump speech at the conference.
Webb urges the Bitcoin community to resist the temptation to acquiesce to the establishment's vision of a new financial system. Instead, she advocates for the development of privacy-enhancing tools within the Bitcoin network that would allow it to function as a truly decentralized and anonymous form of money. This, she argues, is essential for preserving financial freedom in an increasingly digital and surveilled world. Webb's analysis also touches on the broader implications of this new financial system for global power dynamics. She suggests that the integration of Bitcoin with US dollar and stablecoins could be used to bolster the dollar's global hegemony, particularly in the face of rising challenges from other currencies like the euro and the yuan. This, in turn, could lead to increased tensions between major world powers as the US seeks to maintain its dominance in the global financial system. Please like and subscribe my channel.